Hey friends, global greetings, and welcome to Let's Talk About It with Danelle Boyles, and I'm coming to you from the US. It is currently 6:02 p.m. Central Standard Time on a balmy Wednesday evening. Today we're taking a moment for some chat and expand time, so come join me for a few and let's talk about it. Today I'm going to be having Maya join me, and we're going to get the lowdown on overcoming procrastination. So something that we all have difficulty with at times, whether it is large or small task or a new beginning or a new ending. So if that piques your interest or is something that maybe you have been looking to expand yourself on, then come and join us. I'll be welcoming Maya to the conversation.
Hey there.
Hey Maya, how are you?
Glad to hear it. Ready to pick up where we left off with the procrastination tips, or did the podcast recording go okay?
Well, I actually had to start over again because I had company at the door. So if you can please excuse our last conversation we began, and we're kind of starting over.
Totally fine. Life happens. We can definitely hit the reset button.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, since we're starting fresh,
Mhm.
what's the part of procrastination that usually trips you up the most?
Well, I'm kind of more or less gearing this towards like a conversation for individuals who are looking for help on overcoming their own procrastination. I myself have moments that I struggle with it, sometimes large, sometimes small task, and even just like getting started on doing something new, maybe. But I think overall, today we kind of want to touch base with like the humanness and what causes us to actually have procrastination.
That makes a lot of sense. Procrastination usually isn't about being lazy, it's more of an emotional struggle.
Hmm.
We're basically trying to protect ourselves from a feeling like anxiety or boredom that the task brings up. It's a weird way our brains try to keep us safe.
Yeah, the avoidance creates the
Exactly. It's like a
procrastination so that,
that
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it's like a mental shield.
Right.
We just push the thing away so we don't have to
Hmm.
deal with the stress of it right now.
Yeah.
Do you think that feeling of not being ready is what usually stops people from starting?
I think it's that, but also I feel like has to do with maybe individuals that they don't think they have enough time to time manage something into their routine, or the avoidance is emotional because they are avoiding doing something that might be triggering to them. Whereas comes, you were saying about anxiety, and so putting something off is more of an emotional response so that they don't have to address the feelings that they're going to have whenever they are finally pushing the procrastination out of the way and doing what they need to do.
You've hit on something really important there. It's that loop where the fear of the feeling actually becomes more stressful than the task itself. It's
Mm.
a heavy lift when a project feels like a trigger rather than just a to do list item.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like emotions and being overwhelmed by them is probably the main trigger that involves procrastination. But, there's all kinds of reasons. So
For sure.
I guess today, so since I'm on limited time, I have maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 minutes um, to involve in this conversation. Let's just break down what is the best ways to overcome your procrastination.
The best way to start is usually by shrinking the task.
Hmm.
When something feels like a mountain, our brain just wants to go back to sleep. If you can trick your brain into thinking the task is tiny, like just opening the document or setting a timer for 5 minutes, it stops feeling like a threat.
Hmm.
Do you think that 5-minute rule would work for most people?
Maybe.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think
some people might
Hmm?
I think some people might struggle with that because the momentum is the hardest part.
Yeah.
If the first 5 minutes feel like a chore, they might just stop.
Mhm.
Maybe a more gentle approach, like focusing on the why before the how, would feel more manageable.
Yeah. Maybe even like listing it as, oh gosh, probably kind of like listing it in priority of why you need to do it, what is going to be the outcome, what is the smallest step that you can take to approach the task that you're procrastinating. So, I mean, kind of like what you said, by doing it in small increments, but also like identifying why it has to be done, what is the negotiation to the emotional response to it. It gets very like detailed, in depth, and like emotional intelligence as to why we procrastinate. So it's one of those conversations that can take on many pathways and reasons, but also many ways that you can help yourself too. Um, I
It
always
really
like,
does.
yeah, I always
I'm
like,
with
I'm sorry, whenever we have our conversations, I always like to like bullet point. That way it's easy for watchers or listeners to be able to have an identifiable like list of things to follow along when they're trying to change a behavior. So,
I'm all for that.
yeah, so like from your top 5 of ways to overcome procrastinating, how would you address it?
I can definitely do that.
Thanks.
Here's how I break it down. First, acknowledge the emotion.
Mhm.
Instead of fighting the guilt, just admit, okay, I'm feeling anxious about this, which takes the power away from the trigger.
Mhm.
Second, use that micro win strategy. Commit to just 2 minutes of work.
Mhm.
It's easier to start when the finish line is only 2 minutes away. Third, tie the task to a reward. Tell yourself you get that social media scroll or a favorite snack only after a specific part is done. Fourth, clear the friction. If you're avoiding a workout, put your shoes by the bed. Make the path to starting as smooth as possible. And fifth, forgive yourself for the delay. Shaming yourself just adds more negative emotion to the task, which actually makes you more likely to procrastinate again. Do you think the forgive yourself part is the one people forget the most?
I do very much, because that's the typical like normal human emotional response, is to have guilt over pushing something aside that needs to be done. And a lot of people will berate themselves because they feel like they should, it's the task is usually something that should easily be able to be completed, such as a phone call or an email, or sometimes it's simple, but sometimes it's big. If it's related to something like that has to do with loss, or or divorce, or calling a teacher because your student got in trouble. Like, it's things are going to have large impactful moments. Those, I could understand being a little more difficult to address and overcome, and that maybe the simple tips and tricks, that usually work, won't work. Um, but for everyday negotiations, yeah, I feel like, you know, what we talked about would help, and the guilt would be possibly still there, but more minimalized. I don't know.
That's such a distinction. There's a massive difference between delaying an email and delaying a conversation about a divorce. One is a hurdle, the other is a mountain of grief. Applying productivity hacks to a deeply emotional life event can almost feel dismissive of
Right.
how hard that actually is.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of weight.
Yeah.
In those cases, it's not procrastination in the traditional sense, it's more like survival.
Mm-hmm.
When the task is tied to a heavy loss or a hard truth, the brain isn't avoiding the work, it's avoiding the pain.
Yeah.
I imagine in your work with students, you see that a lot, where the refusal to do a task is actually just a way of coping.
It can be. Yeah.
It's a tough spot to be in. When you're managing that for someone else, it takes a lot of patience to look past the behavior and see the emotion underneath.
Oh,
Do you find it's
absolutely.
harder to, it's like trying to solve a puzzle when you don't have all the pieces. You're
Mhm.
basically playing detective with someone's emotions while trying to keep a schedule.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mental heavy lifting for one person.
And it can be, and
It
I do.
really,
Yeah, I relate to that with my, my work, working with individuals that can not always be responsive to directions or wanting to, comply on a task, but you always have to evaluate why the procrastination or why the avoidance. Sometimes it's, the individual doesn't feel good, or maybe they had something that upset them emotionally and they're having trouble like moving through it. So it really, it's a very broad topic that, someone really would need to dive deep in to fully understand why they procrastinate. But everyday stuff, the simple tips and tricks of, taking the minimal steps towards change, um, is very important in everyday things. And it can be anything from wanting to wake up earlier to staying on top of a workout routine, or, changing your TV or social media habits. So,
exactly.
yeah.
It's those small daily wins that eventually turn into a rhythm. When you stop fighting the internal battle and just start moving, even an inch, the whole energy of the day shifts.
Absolutely. All right, Maya, that's all I have time for today. So I'm going to have to sign off. But I really appreciate your time and your input and
It
conversation.
was I really enjoyed it too. Good luck with the re-recording. I'm sure it'll be a breeze this time. Catch you later.
Thanks. Take care, Maya.
You too. Talk soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. So there you have it. That was a brief conversation with Maya, but a very in-depth conversation. And, um, you know, the overcoming procrastination is a very broad conversational topic, and, is something that we can have many conversations over. But I thank you all for joining me, and I will see you again next time. And until then, keep on trying to overcome that procrastination. And peace out and namaste until next time. Bye. Take care.